Hey there, welcome to the Pathway Home Program channel, and we are going to be going through a little bit of market data today. We're going to be talking some about how the building that's happening in East Polk County and how that's affecting basically all of our resale properties here on the east side of the county. So there's a lot that has happened between Winter Haven, Davenport, Haines City. Tons of new construction has come in. And I want to show you some graphs and charts that are going to help show you a little bit of how, as a seller, you may need to understand this and be thinking about this. And as a buyer, how it's a great opportunity for either new construction or resales and how you can get involved in using this information to your benefit. So let's check out some of that. I'm going to go through this information the best we can here. And, and as we go along with it, if you have questions, you can put the questions into the chat below, and we can talk about how maybe that information is going to get answered for you. So here's some reports. The thesis here that the builders are kind of wrecking the resale market. New construction in East Polk County has surged over 600 sales per year since 2020. Over 2,000 sales per year in 2023 to 25 as builder inventory floods the 250 to 350K sweet spot with brand new homes. Resale sellers find themselves competing against finished products with warranties, builders, incentives, and rate buydowns, driving resale prices down, days on market up, and sale to relist ratios for multiple year lows. The data below makes the case clearly. So the builder boom is the single biggest headwind facing resale sellers here in East Polk County. So let's look at the data real quick. It looks like we have about 900% growth from 47 homes in May 2021 to now 272 in January 2025. So I want to look at this chart real quick. It's very interesting. So the new construction versus resale count of sales here. So when we go back and look at the resales in 2022, look at the number of resales that we had per month. So in March, April, May, we were in the 447 range per month to 400 is the 396 range. And look at where the builders were at that time, 63 to 50. So there was activity, but look at the gap between these two lines going back to 2022. Tons of resale activity, lots of things going on. And then look as these lines kind of come together. I find that interesting. So when we move to the resale line in 2024, and let's say we look in February, we've moved down about, I don't know, whatever that number is, the differential there, but look at this distance from 447 to 269. There's a big gap and drop in resales. But look what happens. We have a growth from 63 to 191 of new builds in 2024. Sorry, 203. So even more. So it's really interesting to see this thing draw closer and closer as time goes on. And it sort of just expresses the truth of what's going on in the marketplace altogether. We have less and less resales as we go on from year to year. And I think what's most interesting is even if we look right now, it's kind of the first time, December of 2025 and 4, it all kind of converges here. So sorry, that's 2025. So in 2024, it converges here where the builder activity went all the way up to meet the activity of resales. And so there's a little bit of a split now between 25 and 25 at the end of the year. But, that's a very interesting thing when we start off in the distance looking at how big of a gap there was in 2022 to how much of a gap there is now in this time period. So basically, as we look at the 900% growth in new build activity, that brings down the resales 22%. And grows our days on market up to 66 days on market on average for the resales. And back in 21, the average was 9 days on the market, right? And here's one of the things I think is most important that the seller inventory is just going to have to get more clarity on, right? So when we look at days on market, this is a very important graph right here. And I'm going to go ahead and just show the graphs and get my head out of the way so that we can see it a little bit better. So look at the days on market for new builds versus resales. Okay. 21 to 26. So we start off here and, not a lot of difference on what's going on days on market. Everything's selling really fast. Okay. So as we move forward, resales are holding pretty low. Builders are higher and higher. So we get to the place where in January 25, new builds were days on market of 73. Really struggling on getting those things sold. And so that's a pretty long time to have spec homes in the ground. And resales were down in the 60s. But look at this switch where resales move from 72 to 55, now to 44, while resales are going up. So you have to ask yourself in this time period from January, April, May, what's happened here? Well, I'll tell you what's happened is that the median price point for what's going on the builder side, you can see it here, from January of 25 all the way down to April of 26, you're seeing a reduction in overall pricing for builders. And what are you seeing here on the resale side? There was an initial dip to get down to try to fight against the builders, but now what have they tried to do? We've tried to climb back up to try to hopefully take advantage of the momentum that was happening in the marketplace. But that basically is causing the problem is the seller market has tried to go too fast and basically, let's see here. The seller resale market tried to build up their pricing a little faster than the builders did. So when we look at maybe what agents are telling sellers is that there is a recovery and here comes the interest rate. So let's get our prices back up. Prices went back up. And unfortunately, those prices are not in competition with the builders. The builders started to win again, more so against the resales. And then you run across a problem where you see the days on market start to adjust down and you can see where the builders begin to win there. So just something to pay attention to. If you're a seller, you need to really have an honest conversation with your agent to find the right price point in competition with these builders. And also we have overall pool of buyers kind of starting to come down because of the Iran conflicts. I'll have another video that explains how the market's being affected by the Iran conflict. But let's go into some more of these charts. We have active listings, new builds versus resales. We have the new builds that are active, resales that are active. And so this is kind of an inventory battle. We can see that going back to January 22, very low. The high point is July 24. And we can see inventory is purged down some. So builders are, either getting more activity or they're being a little bit smarter about what inventory they're putting out and allowing to be out. And the resale side of things, 1676, this is all just in East Polk County. So you can see it's peaked out here in April 25. And as we get closer to where we are, April 26th, inventory is really high, right? And even up against the builders. So the builders are putting out less inventory. And here's the resale list we call ratio for erosion. So 2021 to 2026, we were for a long time having 100% from 2021 to about July 2022. We saw 100% of when we put the listing out for a price, we would get the price that we were hoping for. So that's that ratio. Now look at the drop. When we got down to January 23, offers started to come in much lower. And so sellers had to respond by taking lower offers by a minimum of 3%. So 97% list to sale ratio means the property's values were coming down 3%. It doesn't take in consideration the different concession potentials. But you can see overall, property values have begun to take a hit and they've gone down. Now, here's a really interesting one where you can see what's happening in the different price brackets. So this is sub 150,000, and you can see where the sales are happening in these different price brackets. So resales were 157 in 2024, and they're up to 192 in 2026. So you can kind of see what's going on. The price bracket of 150 to 200, there's basically no builders in that bracket showing up at all. So, that's a good place for resales. Now, as we head into the 200 to 250K, builders start to show up a little bit, but mostly resales. Now, this is where we start to see a lot of activity. So in 2024, 169 up against 241, you can see that the builders are now starting to take a big segment of this buyer population, and it's increasing in 2026. So as we head over here to the 300 to 350 range, the builders tried in 2024 to really find themselves in the 300 to 350 range, and you can see them pivot. So the pivot is they were here in this range, and they've moved, as you can see, out of this range and moved up a little over here, right? So they've come out of the 300 to 350 range because this is the 2026. They're putting out less inventory there, and they've moved over to put more inventory in the 250 to 300 range because of what's going on with the economy. Now, the resales, we can see that they are suffering in response to this with all the product that is in that niche. So just something to be aware of. If you're in the 300 to 350 range, even the 350 to 400 range, it looks like the builders are really dominating in the middle of the income here. And then as it goes for 400 to 500, 500 plus, activity is really kind of limited on the builder side. So just interesting, right? And then as we look at resale pricing trends over the East Polk County, 2016, the median was 115, and this thing is ramped up all the way to crazy 283. So, I mean, look at the change in values in our area. Overall, I mean, that's pretty incredible. So if you owned a house anywhere in this time period, it almost doubled your price of your home. Now we see a softening, and still where we are, kind of continue softening. And some of the reasons is because of this builder product, right? So, as we look at the peak in 2023, this tells us that the builders had their highest prices here around October 22 at 344. And now they've all the way down here, they've dropped to 305. Now that's not including concessions and builder incentives and rate buy downs. So that's the other puzzle piece. So I'm just going to read the verdict here. I'll pop back to my main slide here so you can see me, my wonderful face, which I know is important to you. So new construction activity listings in East Polk explode from 47 to 270 or 27 in January 2025. That's like 1,400%. That's insane. That is a absolute crazy builder boom. And that's really affected our resale market. It's just something to know. It's something that is really important to know. Our resale market has fallen 22%, and buyers are choosing new builds over used home. Builders have slashed their own prices. So new construction went from 348, as we said, to 305, 12% price cut. Resales are getting dragged down with that. Days on market are up 7 days from 2022, 103 days. Even builders are struggling. So, as we look at kind of this overall dynamic of what's going on in the market, what's really important for sellers at the moment that you need to understand is you got to price yourself in front of the market. You can't just look at the resale market. You got to understand what's going on with builders, and you got to find that right price. And you need to be able to speak the builder language. If we're doing a process to sell a home, we may need to be looking at seller concessions, doing rate buy downs, and you want to work with an agent that understands how to present that way. So that's important. On the buyer side, God, you know what? It's an amazing buyer opportunity, much of which we're looking at when it comes to new builds. Those aren't really being calculated into total inventory a lot of times. So we're probably looking at, between 4 and 5 months of inventory, which really makes it, it's more than that. It's going to be 6 to 7 months of inventory. I apologize, which is going to make it a very great buyer's market, an opportunity to negotiate, get those closing costs, find out things that are very valuable to you. So I just want to let you know that is what's going on with the market, how the new builds affect the resales, and why it's a great opportunity for buyers to be in the market right now looking for homes. And, if they can get the financing, we can certainly help you out with that with our Pathway Home program, potentially getting the $35,000 of grant money available that's out there coming soon in July. So that's kind of an update on what's going on this summer here in 2026 and why new builds are doing what they're doing to the market and how you guys can take advantage of that. And for sellers, how you need to be thinking about positioning properly to make sure you get sold if that's important to you here in the short run. Have a great day. Chad Lindsey. If you want any more help directly, you can always contact us here at the COA Group, and have a great day. See ya.